To be a success, what is your strategy? What is your vision? How are you going to change the world? Isadora Duncan had a vision. She knew what she wanted to do and pursued it with passion and vigor. At the age of 5, she announced to her family that she was now a dancer. Isadora was born into a poor but artistic family in Oakland, California. Her father was the poet Joseph Duncan, and her mother was a gifted pianist. She learned singing, dancing, poetry, and music from her mother. She sought to pass on what she learned from her parents. And as a child, she taught her friends to sing and dance, and she and her pupils performed in the Duncan's backyard theater. Isadora never hesitated to jump right in. She believed what one has never experienced, one will never understand. So to get her career going, she joined the New York City Theater Group in 1896. But she wasn't satisfied with the responses that she was receiving, and she left a year later for England on a cattle boat. She toured Europe while performing in theaters filled to capacity, and she broke that mold. Isadora was never the one to follow the herd. She questioned everything. She searched relentlessly to find and create a form of dance that broke the mold and was a true expression of humanity. She spent long days and nights in a studio seeking that dance which might be the divine expression of the human spirit. Through a medium of the body's movements. For hours she would stand quite still, her 2 hands folded between her breasts, covering her solar plexus. And she was seeking and finally discovering the central spring of all movement, the creative of motor power, the unity from which all diversions of movement are born, the mirror of vision for the creation of dance. Isadora fed her inspirations through trips to the library and the British Museum. She was an enthusiastic reader and a quick learner. Her favorite subject to research was classical Greece and its simple, honest beauty. This passion fueled her dancers, which included natural movements such as running, skipping, walking, jumping, and leaping. She imagined a dancer who, after long study, prayer, and inspiration, had attained such a degree of understanding that their body is simply a manifestation of their soul. The body dances in the occurrence of the music, in an expression of something out of another. She noted this is truly creative dance, natural but not imitative, speaking of movement out of ourselves and out of something of ourselves. And although her mother and her sister and her appreciated her artistry, America wasn't ready for her radical ideas. Europe was the first to recognize her genius. She started her first school of dance in Gunwald, Germany. Other schools of Duncan dance were later opened in France, Russia, and then America. She chose 6 young dancers from the first group to tour with her. They were affectionately called the Isadorables. Isadora created an effective approach to movement. Her dance, originating from the solar plexus, incorporating gestures that all could relate to. She shocked American audiences by dancing to Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, which back then was considered scanty attire. But Teddy Roosevelt, observing her heartfelt sincerity, said, "Isadora Duncan seems to me to be as innocent as a child dancing through the garden in the morning, in sunshine, and picking the beautiful flowers of her fantasy." Isadora searched for ways around restrictions. She did not like the unnaturalness of ballet or the affections of theater at that time, so she made sure that her performances were presented simply with smooth movement and short programs. And she loved to innovate. She established herself as a soloist for such a thing as a concert dance, and that was unheard of at that time. She shocked and delighted audiences in America and Europe with her flowing veils, her bare feet, and her free movement. Isadora stayed positive and steadfast determination overcame many obstacles. That would have made a less determined soul despair. Raising money was always a challenge for her. The poverty haunted her for most of her life. Finally, she met an American heir to the singer sewing machine fortune who funded part of her career. And at the height of her career, both of her children were killed when their car slid into the Seine River. She was devastated and thought she would never dance again. But later, she decided to use the experience to fuel her words, and she took her grief and her loss, and she used her dancing and her choreography to reflect them. Her gestures became more dramatic. Her steps became bolder. After the accident, Duncan became more interested in teaching than performing. She wanted to teach children who could then pass her work on to the next generation of dancers. Dance wasn't only Isadora's passion, but it was her staff of strength. But when strategy stuck again in 1914 with the birth of a stillborn baby, she continued to dance on. She died in France in 1927. Isadora's dream lives on through dance studios and theaters in Europe and America to free the human body in a way that no one before her had ever done. Now just take a moment and think of your strategies for success. What is your vision for movement? How will you change the world? How will you teach not only yourself but others to be a success?